Sup everyone, I'm your female otaku, and I'm here to start a new series where I discuss anime you either forgot about, never heard of, or grew up with. And for the first installment of the series, I'd like to talk about Kiki's Delivery Service, an anime film I could not put down as a kid. However, it all started before I was born, on July 29th, 1989, in its theater debut. But what's the point in talking about 1989 when people in the West weren't able to view it on home video till 1998? At that time, I was about less than a year old, so if I had to pinpoint a time when I watched this magical film, it would be in 2001 when I was in kindergarten. My mom worked as a librarian and would bring me tapes of the latest tapes of the latest TV shows, cartoons, and films for kids to see how much I would like them. One day, she brought home, you guessed it, Kiki's Delivery Service. You know how every kid has that one movie that their parents would play on repeat to shut them up? For my little sister, it was The Lion King, but this whimsical film was mine. Kiki's Delivery Service opens with one of the best things about this film, the atmosphere. We'll get more into that later, but try to pay attention to how refreshing, unique, and detailed the setting is. Like the backdrop to one of your favorite lo-fi hip-hop streams, we pan over to Kiki listening to the weather station like any other normal kid. She hobbles along to her mother doing some sciencey stuff in a greenhouse to tell her, wait. Is her mother making drugs? Kiki tells her mom that she's running away and she ain't never coming home. Old hag Dora asks what's all the hubbub about, and the mother says that when witches turn 13, they gotta go do some work study in another town for a year. Dora then says something that always made me curious about the ending. Dora says she remembers when the mom arrived into town to be their residential witch. So did the mom just decide to stay and marry a human guy? Is that what happens to Kiki at the end? Maybe so, because her dad wears glasses like Tombo, so that clearly means he's human, right? Anyway, after giving the broom a good spanking, Kiki lands in a port town that I just fell in love with. You see, I've always been fascinated by movies that took place in a world completely opposite of my own. I grew up in a city and suburban area, so whenever beaches were involved, or if it took place in another country, I fell in love with that film. In Kiki's case, you have the ocean, homes that are smushed together, and hills upon hills. It was unlike anything I had ever seen. After killing a dozen people and ditching the popo, Tombo slides into Kiki's DMs. Tombo is super nervous being around a cutie for the first time, but Kiki snaps back by saying,
助けてくれてありがとう。でもあなたに助けてって言った覚えはないわ。それにきちんと紹介もされてないのに女性に声をかけるなんて失礼よ。
Kiki finds a home in a pregnant woman's bakery and decides to earn her keep by making deliveries using her spoopy skills. Now I know Kiki's training and all, but shouldn't she be learning spells and potions, not just flying? This is the only witchy thing we see other than the mother making drugs earlier, so that's a tad disappointing. But the movie makes up for it with these dazzling flight scenes. Flight is a huge part of this film, not just because of the plot, but the overall coming-of-age theme. Flying represents freedom and taking charge of your life, which is exactly what Kiki is learning. This just makes this film and any coming-of-age film timeless. You can watch them as a child to pump you up for when you have to grow up. As a teenager, you relate to those films since you're going through the same thing. And when you're an adult, you reminisce about the time you started to mature and realize things that you kinda wish you realized a little sooner. It's touching, really. I just like the attention they put on Kiki's childlike behavior with how she walks up the stairs or running into the street, into a person that has to pay attention to how much money she's spending and what to spend it on. Throughout the film, Kiki longs for stylish clothes and a boyfriend, which is something just about every 13-year-old girl thinks about. You see, when I was a child, I liked watching cartoons with a female lead, specifically Madeline, as told by Ginger, the Wild Thornberrys, and of course, the Powerpuff Girls. I especially connected with Madeline since we both have appendix scars, but I'm getting off topic. We see Kiki learn responsibility through her deliveries and making friends along the way. However, she starts to feel insecure about the way she looks as she makes these deliveries to bratty kids. As the audience, we know that Kiki is a better person than they are, but she doesn't see it that way. I remember feeling the same way when I was her age. People told me I was mature and smarter and prettier, but I didn't know how to properly dress, and I never went to house parties. I felt kinda lame. This isn't something the film specifically spells out, but you can tell how Kiki feels just by her reactions to the kids. So Gigi, Kiki's cat, gets a little frisky with this poofy cat. You know what they say, once you go white, you're high as a kite. No, seriously, this cat totally changes Gigi for the worst. He stops talking and only meows for the rest of the film. Then Kiki realizes that she's losing her witch's powers. This transition could stand for a few things, like she's no longer a child and needs to fend for herself, or she's forgotten about her roots and needs to properly balance that with her new life. Through this, Kiki discovers a new emotion that a lot of teenagers start to feel: depression and anxiety. I honestly can't believe all the puberty-filled aspects director Hayao Miyazaki was able to fit. Shows you what a great director and crew can do in a matter of an hour and 40 minutes. After learning mindfulness and relaxation, Kiki was able to put herself together and save Tombo from falling to his death. Fun fact, there's this 2017 Cup of Noodles commercial where Kiki confesses her feelings to Tombo in high school, so it's canon. Although I'm a little biased, I think Kiki's delivery service is an important part of anime cinema and coming-of-age tales in general. Whenever I watch an anime that has to do with young witches, you can find a hint of this film in them. Usually that of maturing into a woman and Kiki's personality. While a lot of modern cartoons starring girls show you the importance of being uniquely you, which is not a bad thing, I can't help but feel more attached to the classic ones that teach you kindness and responsibility. Maybe I matured so quickly because of these types of series. Whatever the case may be for me, I'd like to know the fond memories you have of Kiki's delivery service. Do you think this film is important at all, or just a nice pastimer? Since I'm talking about a Ghibli film, there's a good chance this video won't be monetized due to Ghibli's harsh copyright claims, so if you have the spare change, please donate to my Patreon. Speaking of which, I want to give a very special shout out to Chang Musty and Art and Kess for supporting me on said platform. Check out the links in the description for my social media, Patreon, and second channel. I'm your female otaku. Sayonara.